Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, WeThePeopleProcessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. WeThePeopleProcessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, WeThePeopleProcessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024.
Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state
She's
categorically?
asking a question.
Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You are
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a
question.
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. And you don't have to just start and stop with what we do here on this platform, which is heavily censored, and I can only discuss certain issues at a certain level of depth without it being canceled. You can join us for the radio show every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. It's live and it's free. It emanates from the People's Republic of Ann Arbor from Wham Talk 1600's Freedom Bunker. Go to davejana.com, hit the Listen Live button, takes you to the Wham Talk 1600 streaming service. Hit play and you're with us. Great guests, great analysis, information you're not going to get from the bought-off lamestream fake media. Our goal is to educate you and empower you. By empowering you with this information, you then become a more difficult target for the deep states and their puppets in their goal of stripping you of your remaining freedoms and liberties. In addition, if you want the podcast, they're part of our subscription platform. Look, 30 cents a day. Try it for a month. If you don't like it, get rid of it. But why? Because the information you get is priceless and puts you months, if not years, ahead of the curve. We have our extra shows, our WTF show, where I go through in depth every Wednesday what's happening behind the curtain from my sources that I've developed over 30 years. In addition, we have our Insider Insight show of a guest that comes forward to speak about issues they cannot on a public platform. This past week, we did this with Dr. Lee Merritt, one of the top physicians in our country and researchers that are looking at this freedom-stripping agenda that's occurring with this and this. The title of the presentation is Fear is the Real. Right. We actually, our subscribers found that it was such an important interview, we made it free. And it's on our homepage at davejanda.com. You'll get a glimpse of what we do on our subscription side. We have a Department of Advanced Research show. We have the archives to all of our shows. We have our healthcare policy series, all available on the subscription side for 30 cents a day. Give it a try. And again, if you don't like it after a month, you don't have to sign up for a year. It goes month to month. Get rid of it. It's priceless. I can attest to you. Our subscribers will tell you that the information they have gotten from our platform, in some cases, have saved their lives and their families' lives. That's not an overstatement, not hyperbole. Fact. I cannot go into depth on this platform. Can't. Now, one of the things we also do is the presentation I used to give on this platform, our Operation Freedom Briefing, I have free up at davejana.com that we upload every Tuesday. So it's there for you on the homepage, labeled under Operation Freedom Briefing. On Operation Freedom, I've been speaking about inflation, supply chain issues, and voting with your hard-earned dollars and how to make a difference. Look, we all know over the past couple years how the globalist syndicate has done quite well. And while middle America, small and medium-sized American-made businesses have suffered while the big box stores have prospered. Many people believe, well, there's nothing you can do about it. I believe there is, folks. I believe there is. That's the good news. We need to vote with our dollars. That is how we make a difference. What if there was a better way to utilize our resources that we have earned to support small and medium-sized businesses rather than these big box stores or the globalist syndicate? Look, businesses that do not rely on cargo ships from far-off distant lands, that are American-based businesses, are the key. And that is where PatriotSwitch.com gives you and me the ability to help each other. Rather than continuing to give our money to the big box stores or the globalist syndicate, if you will. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, to help provide products from family-owned, American-made businesses and companies, and provide it to folks like you and me. That's PatriotSwitch.com, PatriotSwitch.com. Today's title on this platform is State-Sponsored Division. You see, the hallmark of the globalist, deep state, New World Order, criminal national banking syndicates playbook, whatever you want to call them, because they're all the same. It's the same entity. The hallmark is to divide and conquer. There are billions of us and maybe a couple thousand of them. And the only way they can maintain control and power and get ever more of their ever-precious moolah is to divide all of us. They do it a number of different ways. Race, black versus white, black versus Hispanic, white versus Hispanic, white versus Asian, black versus Asian, Hispanic versus Asian, you name it. It's one, male versus female, young versus old, urban versus rural, economic class against economic class. Goal being the elimination of the middle class. It's a hallmark. We saw this with Stalin, right? We saw this with Mao. We saw this under any totalitarian's, thug's rule. The rule is to decimate the middle class with dictates, with taxes, with inflation. Sound familiar? And now we have another division criterion that the deep state, the technocrats, the Faucis of the world have rolled out. Versus can't even say the word. Right? 32 years of practicing medicine on the front line of healthcare delivery. And I can't say a word that starts with this or talks about this. That's why DaveJanda.com exists. In fact, that's why we've saved people for the past 2 years. But it's all about divide and conquer. I've stated this before on our subscription platform, but I'll state it here. When I first went to Washington in the spring of 1988, toward the end of the Reagan administration, to work on healthcare policy and worked with a number of individuals, including the then Surgeon General C. Everett Koop. One of the first meetings I was involved with were the newcomers meeting. kind of the welcome wagon presentation occurred with one of President Reagan's top aides. And there were several of us in the room. And this top aide said, look, the reason why you're here is because you have been identified based on your actions in society as cherishing freedom and advocating for freedom in your respective specialties that you're involved with. Janda, you're in medicine, and so you're in law, and so you're in business. We want you to carry forth on that agenda. However, a couple things that the president has as a criterion for the policies that you put forward and that you advocate in this administration. One, the right-left axis, and this is another means of division. The right-left axis is purely theater. That's what we were told, 1988. It's pure theater. It's meant to divide and conquer. None of the policies that you push forward or bring forward to the president are to focus on a right-left axis. None of them. They are solely to focus on one particular axis, the up-down axis, the so-called y-axis as opposed to the x-axis. And this y-axis is up being freedom and down being oppression. And your role is to focus on the freedom side of enhancing freedom in your agendas. And the second is to suppress the oppressors that are trying to oppress freedom. And there are a large group of individuals within government, within agencies, within businesses, within this country that are solely owned and operated by entities that want to suppress freedom. That was 1988. And that was the agenda that I not only carried out in 1988, but have continued to carry out to this very day. That freedom-based agenda has led to a tremendous amount of blowback. One would think you would be embraced with a freedom-based agenda. I am constantly demonized, slandered, defamed, misrepresented because of my focus, sole focus. What's the name of my platform? Operation Freedom. It came from Ronald Reagan. Why? Why would the field of medicine be so adverse to freedom? Just look what's happened over the past 2 years. Why do you think I retired on January 1st, 2017? Why in 2014 did I tell my family and tell the powers that be at the medical centers I was on staff at, that I was done January 1st, 2017? Because out of 1988, I became a healthcare policy analyst. And when Obamacare came out, I was one of the first, if not the first, to come out and say, this is a freedom-stripping agenda. It is about the most unethical and inhumane means of cutting healthcare costs, the rationing and denying of care by bureaucrats and technocrats that have no functional medical knowledge, whose sole goal is to strip people of their freedoms and liberties. I saw what was coming in 2019. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew something was coming. And remember, Obamacare was two parts that they don't want you to know about to this day. I spoke about it in a video in 2010. I didn't know it was being videoed. It went up, a portion of that presentation, on YouTube. It had over 3.2 million hits. Why? Because I brought forward the truth that no one else was willing to bring forward. And that is, half of Obamacare was hidden in the stimulus bill, and that's where the rationing boards and where the enforcement boards were, that were going to enforce, what did I say back in 2009? Protocols. Protocols that would be devastating to people's freedom. And what's happened over the past 2 years? Exactly that. And one of the entities that they use for this divide and conquer strategy in medicine is race. Yeah. State-sponsored division. State-sponsored racism. It's just another part of the playbook. Look, for 32 years, for 40 years I've been involved in medicine. 32 years of my life on the front line of healthcare delivery, and in particular surgery. I was an orthopedic surgeon in practice for 32 years. Now let me tell you the first thing you realize when you're a surgeon. In my entire 32 years as a surgeon, I never met one nurse, anesthesiologist, or surgeon who was a racist. Why? Because all you have to do is spend a very small amount of time in the operating room, and you realize one thing. When as a surgeon you make that incision on a person's skin, no matter what their color, when you get through the first millimeter or two of skin, you want to know the truth? We are all pink. Pink. We're the same. Anyone who has spent a fraction of an hour in the operating room could never be a racist. Because once the knife drops, it becomes very apparent. We're all the same. We're all pink. But Doc Biden and Doc Harris and Doc Fauci and Doc CDC and FDA and NIH and AMA and you name it, they want you to not know that. And this infuriates me. Because anyone pushing this policy I'm about to tell you about is nothing more than a pure-blooded, totalitarian, thug racist. Fact. This is everything I have worked against in my entire life. And they're using the medical field. They've hijacked the medical field for this. And it makes me sick. It makes me sick that physicians should be standing up against this and they are mute. And they are mute because they are cowards. And I've said that for years. You don't know how many thousands of docs have come to me and said, gee, Dave, thanks for saying this. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being out front on this. And I say, why don't you join me? Why don't you become vocal about this? Well, I don't want to be targeted like you are. I don't want to be called names like you are. That's what we're dealing with. And this is why you're seeing so many docs that know there is something wrong with this when you look at the number of adverse problems that just do it because, well, they don't want to make waves. And in the process, they're hurting people. And in some cases, leading to their demise. This is the latest FDA guideline from Julian Conradson. It's essentially state-sponsored racism through the medical field. FDA guidelines instruct healthcare providers to prioritize racial minorities over whites for access to scarce treatments. In a number of states, New York, Minnesota, Utah, even Texas, to name a few, just a few, non-white citizens are receiving priority for scarce monoclonal antibody treatments and oral antiviral pills, regardless of their age or underlying conditions, thanks to health equity policies that have been implemented by local governments. The rationing based on race policy has sparked intense backlash against the states which have implemented them, but the idea did not start within the local health departments. They're just the puppets. And they should be held accountable too. But the destructive scheme actually came directly from the Food and Drug Administration, according to the agency's own documents. You see, we don't end totalitarian thug policies like this that are putting people in harm's way. There should never be any type of medical intervention that is dependent on someone's race, on someone's age. Look, you might think, what? When I pointed out in 2009, Ezekiel Emanuel, who was an advisor to Obama and to Biden, Rahm Emanuel's brother. This Ezekiel guy, I won't even call him a doc. He's a hack. He put something forward called the Complete Lives Theory that was published in The Lancet, that same journal that had to rescind its research article on a particular effective early intervention in this whole thing from last year when it was found to be fraudulent. Well, he published something called the Complete Lives Theory that shows that, and he states that if you're between the ages of 18 and 45, well, you should have medical treatment, but if you're less than that or if you're older than that, well, you're not a valuable member of society, so you should have medical treatment withheld just based on your age. That's what Obamacare is based on. He was one of the advisors for Obama and still is, and for Biden, and he's a deep state player. There should be no medical intervention that is based on someone's race, someone's age, someone's socioeconomic status. Fact. That's the medicine I practice, to not discriminate. But unfortunately, medicine has become just that. And it has to stop. Because if it doesn't, it's over. And the only way it stops is we're calling people out on this. This is pure and unadulterated racism. This is pure and unadulterated, unethical garbage. But you won't find the AMA calling them out. And you won't find these big medical centers, some of which are religion-based. It's all a scam. It's all a money laundering scam. We need to stop this division stuff. Stop this labeling stuff. And just get down to business, in particular in medicine, taking care of people. And delivering the care that they need. And taking the time to talk to people. One of the huge problems over the past 2 years about this entire goat rodeo, hoisted upon us by the totalitarian thugs and the technocrats, is the lack of informed consent. Comprehensive informed consent. If you want to get this, fine. If you don't want to get this, fine. But before you make a decision, be comprehensively informed. And this has been a pandemic of a lack of comprehensive informed consent. Fact. Why? Because it takes time. And the powers that be that run these big medical centers and own practices now tell docs, you can't take time talking to patients. Because if you do, it affects our bean counters' bottom line. And they can't go to the country club as often, and they can't go on really big vacations if you don't see enough patients. That's what this is about. Lack of informed consent puts people in harm's way. And those conversations are not happening. 99% of people that I speak with that had this, when I talk to them about informed consent and some of the information out there, they go, what? I was just told to roll up my sleeve. And when you lack comprehensive informed consent, you put people in harm's way. And that's what's happening around this country. That's the state-sponsored division that's occurring. And it's not by accident. It's willful. And the only way it stops is for you taking this information and getting it out to everyone you know and love. And people might give you blowback, but you know what? Just show them this video. Let me be the bad guy if you don't want to take the heat. Because the only way we end this entire goat rodeo, this totalitarian thugocracy that's occurring right now around the country and around the world, is exposing these scum and putting their agenda right on the table. And their agenda is not about helping people, it's about dividing people. And in the process, people die. Fact. And it's got to stop. And it stops with you telling everybody you know about what's really happening and what really the agenda is. And then the cockroaches will scurry back into their little totalitarian knotholes. And the world will be better off. I thank you for your time. You can join me at davejanda.com 24/7, where we go into far greater depth and provide far more information than I could ever touch on this compromised platform. I thank you. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.